engaging with the City of Nixa. The meeting will begin shortly.
Yeah, go ahead. Give her a second. You can go ahead and start streaming it, though. We'll call the meeting to order.
Sean Lucas,
Here.
Justin Orff,
Here.
Jared Giddens,
Here.
Aaron Peterson,
Here.
Darlene Graham. Here. Amy Hookstrat.
Here.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we'll move on to the consent agenda. Would anyone like to remove any items from tonight's consent agenda? Seeing none, need a motion to approve?
So made. Second.
Roll call, please.
Justin Orff,
Yes.
Jared Giddens,
Yes.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Darlene Graham.
Yes.
Amy Hookstrat.
Yes.
Sean Lucas.
Yes. We will move on to the visitor section. Do you have any visitors this evening?
Yes, Mayor, we have 3 visitors. Their first visitor is Nicole Lindquist, and she wants to discuss youth triathlons.
Okay.
Hello, Nicole Lindquist, 784 South Pinehurst Street. I'm with Heartland Racing, and we are so grateful that you are willing to approve our race. It's on June 12th, and we're starting to get really excited about it. As of right now, we have about 20 participants signed up with 3 weeks to go. And I've been told for youth races that normally parents kind of wait to the very end just to get it in. And as a parent, I kind of get that. But we got off to a really late start in planning this year for lots of different reasons. And because of that, it's been really hard to get sponsorship and the word out and advertising. So we know that this year is going to be a building year. And we're hoping to double down and perhaps collaborate with the city and create something amazing for 22 and to build triathlons that were similar to the ones of year past with David Liss and the Optimist Club. Triathlons and races are amazing for cities. I think it's something that Nixa could really benefit from. It builds a sense of camaraderie and pride, not only in the participants, but their families while watching. And so it's really fun to be part of a community that hosts races. And due to troubles with finding sponsorship and advertising, some of the city bills are going to get a little hard for us. We'll be able to do it, but it's going to be really tight. And we were hoping that we could save money to put it into next year's race. So I was wondering if you'd be willing to consider waiving or perhaps discounting the invoices that we currently owe.
Matt's not here, so does anybody know what those are? Or
I have one with me. So the X Center is $170, and we're still waiting on the one from the police department. Due to insurance, it's been this whole thing. But our insurance should be coming this week, and then I was told we'd get our invoice.
Chief? Chief doesn't know anything about it, probably. Not his side of the department, right?
Mayor, can you hear me?
Yes.
So we did review that application, and then we determined that there would not be any cost incurred for the police department.
Okay.
They had an adequate plan for the route, and after review, Lieutenant Fleetwood did recommend that we give approval. I believe that was sent through back to planning, but maybe it didn't get back to him. So if you don't have a copy of that, we will get that to you, but we don't have any cost on our end. Their plan is sufficient for the safety on the road work part of it.
Okay.
That's
Well,
brilliant news.
That's great.
Thank you.
Well, there you go.
That sounds good.
So it's just the X Center then, really?
Yes, and Matt is running late tonight, but he will be here later. But at this point, I'm not familiar with any other fees associated with that, but we can definitely check with Mr. Kraus when he gets here.
Okay. We'll check with them. I don't think we're allowed to just randomly do that anymore. Yeah. So yes, we will look into that and get back with you. If you send me an email as well, I was David's volunteer coordinator for the last several years of the youth triathlon, so I could send you names of other volunteers and sponsors and stuff that you could reach out to.
Absolutely love that.
So yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you.
I think most of the members of council have also been forced to be volunteers at the youth triathlon in the past. All right, who's next?
Oops, sorry. Our next visitor is Connie Atkins, and she would like to talk about fireworks.
Got a couple of things that I brought with me today to show you all. I am a Nixa-ite. My name is Connie Atkins. I've been here for 30 years. I live here in Baldnaber Street. I enjoy fireworks. I love seeing them. I'm grateful that we're having the Sky High 4th of July this year and going to have our own Nixa fireworks event, which I think is wonderful. My concern is the fireworks that are shot up into the air and come down on other people's homes. That part of it is very concerning to me, and I worry about the damage and the litter. There's a lot of aspects of it that I have made notes about that I feel that should be addressed. I understand that we only do it, or we did last year, I believe, only on the 4th from certain hours, 2 to 11 or 2 to 10, something like that, which does negate the risk and the problems of it going off at different times. The only thing is, I just don't see how you're unable to, or you're able to stop a house from burning down from 2 to 11. You know, if it shoots into your garage, it doesn't matter what time it is. I understand that you can be a little more prepared and ready for it at those particular times. This is fireworks that I picked up. I live in a little subdivision, little cul-de-sac. It's very small. But these are the fireworks that I picked up out of my own yard last year. And some of these, I'd like to show you if I can bring these up to you.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, some of these are just passed down here. I mean, there's some of them here. They're like mortars, or I don't know what they even are. They come down into my yard. I've got pets, so of course I've got to get out there and pick these things up because I don't want my pets eating them. They land in my garden. I don't want these, I don't know, explosive chalk-looking things in my garden. So I would like to ask that we really work hard on the regulations this year. I would like to see them banned myself. I would like to see them, if you can't keep them, if you buy them and you like them, keep them in your yard. That's great. I don't have any problem with that. Do your sprinklers, do your, any of that. Do it, the sparklers, the little shoot-offs, but don't shoot things into my yard. And that's the problem in cul-de-sacs or any of our neighborhoods. I mean, if you've got them over here and I live over here, you're sure as heck not going and shooting them into your own garage. You're shooting them towards my house. I mean, that's just the way it works. You don't want to damage your own things, but I don't think it's fair for you to spend money to damage my things. So then I've got, pets scared, I'm scared, my yard's a mess, my garden's a mess. I've got gutters full of little army men and different debris. I just don't think it's fair to put the burden on me for you to have fun. And I understand that it's patriotic and it's American. And there's a lot of things that I still don't think we should be doing every day in our little cul-de-sacs. I brought a little
Why don't you
handout
hand them, if you could hand them to Beth, and she'll pass them up to us.
that I would like for each of you to just have and look at, peruse, see what you think. It just seems like there's an awful lot of things that are hard and bad about fireworks. There's negatives. I mean, I can pull up negatives all day long, and I'm not sure what the positive is, except it's fun. So I would like you to give that some thought, and if we can have any more restrictions on it in Nixa, or ban it, or keep it on your own property, or anything, I would really appreciate it. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the last visitor tonight is Jeff Belcher, and he would like to discuss various topics.
Yeah, hi again. I missed last week, much to many chagrin, I'm sure. I've got a few things I'd like to kind of go over here today. I know last time we kind of discussed informally, you and I, the process for getting video and media presented. I'm not sure how this Facebook group, with it being a private group, how I would go about that. But I don't know if maybe you would possibly join the Facebook group to where, or maybe the IT department where they could show it. I'm no IT guy. I point and click play, and that's about the extent of my knowledge there. I went home that night and reviewed that video countless times. And in 40 seconds of video, panning half of the audience in that gathering at the Lincoln Days, I didn't see one fork hitting the mouth. And you said that was the reason you guys weren't masking up. You specifically weren't, because you were eating. Again, 40-some seconds of video panning the whole room of an auditorium. I didn't see one fork hitting no mouth anywhere, not even being lifted. I don't know if dinner was before, after, hadn't been served yet. I wasn't there. I was just going off what I was able to see. So maybe if we could get that on the record, we could all form our own opinions. That was just kind of picking up where we left off here. I've seen a lot of complaints on our, I'll say Facebook, not necessarily on our group, but Nixa Strong, you know, the city webpage, whatnot, individual pages as well, expressing their, I guess your supporters would be upset because of the cost. It's going to hinder the city. This cost is not expected. It's a choice, the way I look at it. You were asked several times over the last, 9 months, 10 months, either rescind the order, resign, or recall. Those were the three options that were on the table. Obviously, it never got rescinded, and obviously, you never resigned. Now, 20, 30,000, I have heard different numbers. I don't know exactly what that number would be. Is that worth it?
Is that a question to me?
Is that, yes. Is that worth it to you to incur additional expenses on the city because you feel so right in doing what you did by going against a unanimous decision by your council?
The cost is the cost if the recall process goes through.
Okay. Because we do have the signatures. There's a very, very low number. I mean, but you're content with allowing that procedure to go through at the expense of the city?
That is the process under the Home Rule Charter.
Okay, it is. It is. I was giving you another opportunity through simple dialogue. Okay, and what have I got left here? A minute and a half. I know last time I was here, I congratulated both our new council members here. It was fairly new. I hadn't had a whole lot of time to research to see where everybody kind of stood. Mr. Lucas, I would really question you and your ability to lead. Do you think you can effectively separate your opinions and handle things evenly, equally and represent the citizens that way?
I do.
It seems like you had some pretty strong opinions on your Facebook post there regarding the masking mandate. And I think you'd pretty well see that the city's pretty well 50-50 on the, some want it, some don't. The record was unanimous when council voted. It was a no, a big definite fat no. And I guess my question would be is, how do you differentiate that when you've got strong opinions? I've got strong opinions, and I'm holding them pretty close. Unwavering, I guess one would say. However, I do have the ability to listen to other opinions, and, you know, right or wrong, that's me. Now, as a member of city council, I do believe, would you agree, any of you guys agree, that you guys are held to a higher standard of professionalism? I think that's unanimous. I would ask, do you, sir, think I am an asshole?
No,
Because I was never in support of the mask.
and that's your opinion.
And that post was pretty point blank.
I'm not certain which post you're referring to.
Wear a mask, asshole,
I didn't say that.
that's right there on your Facebook page, sir.
I'll have to find that.
Mr. Belcher, if you could, please, we're online, there could be children watching online, I ask you to watch your language.
Okay, well, I was just trying to, just a simple question. I mean, it's there, that's what I found kind of shocking that, wow, this guy got voted in with this stuff all over his Facebook page, that I would think somebody, you know, running for office would be held to a higher standard. And I don't know if the city does any checking, looking into people, but that's a pretty bold statement to make against 50% of the people you represent. I believe it was dated June 30th.
Okay.
I've got it right here if you'd like me to show it to you.
I can find it.
Again, you're not familiar with the one I'm referring to?
I don't recall it. I'll have to go back and look at it.
Okay. That's there. And I know I'm over. I got one more thing, but I'd like to wait.
Go ahead.
Well, I think it's, I just read the agenda here, and I think it'd be more appropriate to wait.
Okay.
The school getting the fees waived, is that going to be something we can speak to as a public?
Yep.
Perfect.
Definitely.
I'll wait for that then and carry on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Belcher. I don't think there's anything that was brought up that was specific.
Hey,
We may be,
really had to do that right
the whole
now.
building may be crashing right now, so there you go. I think we've spoken to all Mr. Belcher's points in the past, so I don't think we need, if you want to have any other comments, it's up to you. All right, we'll leave the visitor section open. Or anyone else like to speak that hasn't had the opportunity yet? All right, we'll close the visitor section and move on to our service awards. Jason Stutzman, 20 years.
Good evening. 20 years is quite a while, so, and I'll be honest with you, I'll be the first one to say there's several behind me that we're real proud to have him. Jason began working for the city at the wastewater treatment plant, and by the early mid-2000s, he'd moved up to the water department, and he quickly became a top system operator and equipment operator. He's worked under a couple of different department heads. Under Milton, he started accelerating into the lead operator position and learning to follow those footsteps. He's most recently has served as our water quality superintendent. He manages the water utility as well as the wastewater collection systems in the recycle center. He's got approximately 11 people under him. In addition to smoothly running the distribution systems, and of course, as I've reported to you before, we have very top-notch systems. We get high marks from the DNR and those types of things. But he's recently completed a risk and resiliency assessment that's required by the EPA, which was a pretty large project and kind of a reach for something that Jason's worked on before. He did an excellent job at it. Of course, his next task will be to put together a plan to mitigate and counter those risks. But He's a great employee. He's got a lot of respect from his peers, as well as those that are under him and myself. So, congratulations.
Might be a couple broken pipes for you in this building before you out from the evening, right? All right, we'll move on to our presentation section. Dr. Kopp.
Well, greetings. On behalf of Dr. Loden and the Nixa School Board, I say hello. Thank you for having us here tonight. We wanted to give an update on how things are going with our Performing Arts Center. And so this presentation hopefully will bring you up to speed on where things are at, and also a question that I have at the end of the presentation. So if you remember 2 years ago, the Nixa community voted yes for a Performing Arts Center. And so we are at the stage where we have broken ground about a couple weeks ago, actually. The name of the Performing Arts Center is the ATOS, Center for the Performing Arts. ATOS stands for eagle. It's actually a Greek word for eagle. Show you a few pictures about the design for this facility. This is the sort of the courtyard area that you can see. We believe that this will be a great opportunity for our students to actually use as an outdoor classroom. There are stairs there in the bottom left-hand corner that can be used for different outdoor performances. As you look at the Center for the Performing Arts, you'll notice the eagle's wings that are on the exterior as well. We believe that this is going to be a wonderful facility, not only for our students, but also for the Nixa community. We'll be able to hold performances for different community groups, which we believe will bring in business for our restaurants, for our local businesses, that we think is going to be just a great thing for our community. Not only that, but currently our band runs about 300 students. We cannot fit all of our students in the current band practice room. And so part of the reason why we're doing this Performing Arts Center is to also renovate our current arts department. So this would include band as well as drama and choir. Here you can see the inside of the Commons area for the Performing Arts Center. This would be a great place for families to meet. Right now, if you've come to a Nixa theater performance, you know this area gets very crammed at the end of performances, and this is really the opportunity for all of our students to celebrate a job well done and have their families greet them. And right now, they actually have to do that in the Commons area instead of the Commons cafeteria over high school instead of right outside the current auditorium. Here you see a picture of the inside. This auditorium will seat 1,100 people. There will be a balcony area as well as a floor area. You'll notice some unique lighting where, depending on the drama performance, they'll be able to change lighting as well to just add to the effect of the performance. We're very excited about this for different recitals when it comes to our band and piano and instruments. We'll be able to fly in these shells that provide acoustics that will be very, symphony-esque, I guess, so that we can have small performances within the big stage. And this will provide really good acoustics for our various performances when it comes to band. This is a unique angle of the Performing Arts Center. You'll notice the stadium off in the distance that says Nixa, and then the front, sort of an abstract way to blend in the visual arts. From this angle, you'll see the word Eagles. You can kind of see that on the front. You will not see it head on, but when you look down the path, you'll notice Nixa Eagles. And so just another way to tie in visual arts for the design. And there you see Atos Theater on the exterior as well. This is just a picture of what it might look like at night. The precast structure will be done in a way where it almost looks like stage lights on the exterior. You also notice the full moon there. You know, we're also saying that, you know, we'll have that full moon every night as well to add to our performances. So just a quick update on that. We have broken ground. We are basically we're looking at 1.5 years to finish this complete project. Again, part of this also includes a renovation of the current choir, drama, and band areas. This is going to help our students immensely as we continue to grow as a high school, but also we again believe this is a wonderful tool for the community that hopefully will continue to breathe life into Nixa. We know the arts are alive and well in Nixa. Sucker Days was a great example of that, and we want to continue developing the arts for years to come. So that with that being said, we probably all know construction costs are going up right now. And so we would ask as a school district that if the city is willing to forgive some of those city fees, it would help us through the process of constructing this Center for the Performing Arts. And we very much thank you for your consideration. Any questions for me?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Sorry. When the bond issue was passed, it was for $15 million. I'm sorry, I was out working outside all day. I'm tired. 4 million for the stadium, 11 million for the Performing Arts Center. But when the Springfield newspaper was there and covered the groundbreaking, they said it was a $16 million facility. Has it gone up that much because of the cost of construction?
That is correct. Partly construction, also partly scope. When we originally designed this, you know, we're doing very preliminary designs without a lot of discussion with the various people that are working those areas. And so, you know, you don't want to pay the architects a lot when the initial design is made. And so from that time on, the cost did go up.
So they're going to have to look at possibly passing another bond issue to offset that cost, or?
No, because this was actually a piece of the levy, and so this project will be financed.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure because I thought they've got this wrong and I want to clear it up. All right,
Yeah,
we're good.
no, great questions.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So is the idea that in addition to school performances and community performances, to also bring in the kind of performing groups or musicians that might perform at like the Galois?
Exactly, yes. We would be talking about smaller performances, so your big groups, probably not so much, but smaller groups such as that would have a great opportunity with this facility.
Great.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
And we do have an item for that later on in the agenda somewhere. All right, we'll move on to the ordinance section. First reading, bill number 2021-057.
First reading, Council Bill Number 2021-057, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa accepting the accepting the proposal of K&B Equipment LLC for the boring portion of the Northeast Substation Feeder Number 3 project, authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract for said project and amending the 2021 annual budget to provide additional funding for said contract.
Mayor and council, as Elizabeth just said, this council bill awards the boring portion of the Northeast Feeder 3, which is a capital project to extend our feeder out of the Northeast substation. As you'll remember, we built that several years ago, but we're still upgrading and bringing new feeders out of that system, expanding our system. This would award the boring portion of the wire for that to K&B Equipment. It authorizes, of course, the city administrator to sign that. And as Mr. Kopp just said about cost, we're seeing the very same thing. This project is going over budget on us, even though we had a really good bid here. We're going to request that you authorize a $25,000 budget amendment from reserves to go ahead and complete the project. As part of this 2021 CIP, boring this this boring project, what it is, it will be burying a line from Tracker Road, along Tracker Road from Old Castle over to the line between Wicklow and Copperleaf. In addition to that, this project also moves the line back out of the way of the traffic circle construction that we're going to do later this year, or bring to you later this year at Tracker and Old Castle. So K&B Equipment provided the lowest bid at $105,300. In total, we had 4 bids ranging up to $235,093. The contractor in the particular case, K&B has stated that they would start in early July. It's got a 6-week completion, which would put us about the middle of August, which is just in time to move forward with the traffic circle construction. Because of the rising cost, as I mentioned, we need an additional $25,000 to complete the project. This is only a portion of the project. There are some other things associated with it as well. We've seen not only prices go up, but lead times get extended out. It was my understanding, I was talking to one of the guys the other day, and overhead wire, number 477, a standard wire, they're only holding bid prices for 4 hours. So that's the way metal prices are jumping around. So it's really been a problem for us, but in this particular case, we do have a locked bid until we could get through at least this process. So it's our intent, if you were to move forward, we'd bring this, and I misquoted in my memo about May 24th, that's tonight. We'll bring that back to you on the June 14th meeting for final action. If you have any questions, we're certainly available to answer those for you.
Any questions?
You said Copperleaf, but it says Cobble Creek in the verbiage. I'm not understanding. Because Cobble Creek is south of
my
Wicklow.
memo's wrong. That's
Scott.
2 things wrong with that memo.
I just confused. I was trying to picture where this was going.
Must have been
you saying west, and I'm
yeah,
like,
there's a big
Cobble Creek
window
is south.
between Cobble Creek and Wicklow.
Yeah,
it's
that's a
actually
really long-
Copperleaf and Wicklow, which are
That'd be a
side
really
by
long
side.
line, like
So
$400,000.
Yeah. I apologize.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, no, it is Copperleaf and Wicklow.
We'll blame that on Travis and Brian for not proofreading your memo.
Yeah. No, I got to take that hit myself. I'm sorry.
Any other questions? Thank you, Doug.
Yeah.
And we'll open up the public hearing. If anyone would like to speak to this item, you can do so at this time. And we'll close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Move on to the next bill, 2021-058.
First reading, Council Bill 2021-058, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the mayor to execute a memorandum of understanding with the United States Marshal Service to allow the city to participate in a fugitive task force.
Mayor, Council, recently we were approached by the U.S. Marshal Service and invited to participate in a task force that they have created. It's not a new task force, but there are some new components to that particular task force. What they're looking for are members from partner agencies to work with the Marshal Service in their primary mission to apprehend fugitives and persons who are wanted for arrest. Additionally, the new component to their task force is a sex offender registration compliance task force or component. In that case, what they would do is they would go through sweeps and checks and make sure that all the registered sex offenders in a particular area are compliant. And then if they're not compliant, they would take enforcement action against those persons. When this was originally proposed to the police department, they had a variety of different levels, so to speak, that you could actually participate in this organization. We could, for example, give a full-time employee that would work out of their office and be essentially detached and would be a full-time marshal's agent for them. All the way down to basically what I call a force multiplier, and that would be an on-call as needed type scenario where we would have a particular officer or investigator become credentialed with the U.S. Marshal Service, and then whenever they are needed for a particular investigation or one of these offender roundups, they would be called up and asked to participate at that time. That person remaining in the department doing their primary responsibilities for the Nixa Police Department, but available for this task force if needed. So what do we get out of this if we were to participate? Well, we get the full force of the U.S. Marshal Service and the reach that they have when it comes to apprehension. So what we encounter a lot of times in our jurisdiction is that once we have a suspect who we have identified, we get a warrant for their arrest. If they're not within our jurisdiction, they become very difficult to locate and apprehend. You know, sometimes they not only leave the geographic area of Southwest Missouri, sometimes they leave the state, you know, and they can go as far as the coast. Whereas if we have a person detached with the marshals or at least working with them in conjunction with this task force, they're able to use their full authority and all of their resources to track that person down and bring them back into custody. So it's a tremendous benefit for us from that perspective. Additionally, we can also get reimbursed for any overtime that that particular person does while in the service of the marshals. So if they are working over their normal 40-hour work week, then that is eligible for reimbursement. Also, as a minor perk, we can be reimbursed or at least to some degree training and then materials, things like laptops and other kinds of investigative equipment. They're willing to purchase those things, and then those become assigned to our department for our use as well as whenever they're doing the marshal's work. And then it's my understanding that we would retain those resources if we were to depart from the task force, for example. The good news is if we do participate, it's voluntary, and if we choose to pull out of the task force, for example, we give them 30 days notice, and we part ways and shake hands. We have been in this task force before under Chief Lyles, then Chief Lyles. We had at least we've had 3 individuals at one point or another work with the Marshal Service, and we had great success with that. We only parted ways last time because they were requiring a full-time employee being dedicated solely to their jurisdiction or under their task force, and so we weren't able to do that at the time. So we had to part ways with the Marshal Service. But since then, they've come back with a variety of different levels of participation, and so we think it would be a good idea to move forward, rejoin the task force, and then have these resources available to us. I did have Mr. Woodman look at the MOU that's proposed that we would sign, and he did not find any issues with that, and I think that was attached as well as part of the packet. And it also had a little brief summary of those participation levels. Do you have any questions?
Any questions?
Do you have an idea of what level of participation you're anticipating?
So, you know, for us right now, you know, we have to look at our caseload and our workload for our existing people. So we're looking to start out at the lowest level, which would be like on-call basis, as needed, and then also the sex offender compliance team as well. So those are the 2 things that we would start with, and then, you know, if we were to able to, you know, increase our participation at a later time, if caseload allows, or we add personnel or things of that nature, then we could reassess that. But for us, it's really there's low risk and high reward, so to speak. But you know, obviously the thing that I have to do is I have to take care of the city of Nixa, and that's my primary responsibility. So we got to make sure that we have the people dedicated to do the things we need to do here at home first before we start delegating our efforts out to others.
So would you as chief appoint a person, or would they volunteer for this job?
Well, we would have some kind of process. Typically, this works best if you bring somebody out of support or investigations. You don't have to do that, But we have to make sure that the person's the right fit, and obviously they have to go through a federal background check, which I don't think will be a problem for any of our personnel.
Okay.
But most likely it'll be someone out of investigations.
Do you think with the passage of SAPA that this will affect anything?
You know, I don't really know,
Okay.
honestly. I do know that, with anything, anytime the federal government is, so the local agents are subject to what the rules and regulations that are made, at the federal level. And whenever there are changes, just like the changes that I spoke about, whenever they switch from, having a part-time engagement to a full-time engagement for last time, those things change. And so we just have to kind of evaluate how those things will affect our relationship and our ability to participate.
Any other questions? Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
We'll open up the public hearing. If you'd like to speak to this item, you can do so at this time. Oh, yes, for those that didn't know, Mr. Orf's acronym, SAPA, is the Second Amendment Preservation Act that was passed by the state legislature.
Yeah.
And we will move on, close the public hearing. Any further discussion? We'll move on to our next bill, Bill 2021-059.
First reading, Council Bill Number 2021-059, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa waiving certain city fees related to the construction of a certain performing arts center by Nixa Public Schools and amending the 2021 annual budget to cover said waiver.
A little shorter than Joe. Mayor, Council, as you heard from Dr. Kopp earlier, the Performing Arts Center, as I'm going to call it, because I'm still trying to learn that name, but it's an awesome name. But the Performing Arts Center, it's really shaping up to be a really, really beneficial thing for our community. It's really exciting to see what the kids are going to have to be able to perform in, to be able to learn the arts, as well as bringing in outside, performances. And the benefits for the community that's going to bring along with it. Obviously, as Dr. Kopp spoke about, there is some rising costs and construction costs and things like that. So they did approach the city about potentially waiving, or at least waiving some fees that might be associated with that project and partnering with them to keep those costs a little lower. Obviously, whenever I look at something like this, we always want to look at what is the benefit for our citizens. And obviously, there's a lot of benefits in this Performing Arts Center. Not just our children and the education of our children, but also the economical benefits for our community. We have a lot of restaurants that people's going to be eating at, people are going to be coming in town, potentially shopping and so forth. So it really does have some very big benefits for our community as a whole and our children and our school district. So what we did is we looked at what fees that we could possibly look at bringing to council for consideration. One of the fees that we looked at that is still out there and hasn't been invoiced or paid yet, and that is the review cost fees. On a project this large, because of the magnitude of the project and the complexity, we tend to go out and have a third party review those plans for us. So far, and then, after those plans are reviewed, obviously the city then gets that invoice, and then we ask for reimbursement typically from the developer. So that would be a way that council could consider helping out with the PAC, would be waiving those reimbursement fees. Currently, those third-party fees are $5,937.50. I am asking council tonight to consider waiving those up to an amount of $10,000. That way, in case there is another third-party review that needs to take place or something, that we could cover that as well. After visiting with Mr. Tyson, we're pretty confident that we're probably not going to get near that $10,000, or at least won't go over. And there is a chance that it may not even rise from where it's at, but we wanted to make sure that we took those into consideration. So this ordinance would be obviously for the waiver of those fees, as well as a budget amendment for up to $10,000 for the Planning and Development Department, because again, those fees were factored into our budget this year. So that would be what I would present to council for consideration.
So what exactly does this review do? Does it check for safety or?
That's great. I'm going to pass that question right on to Mr. Tyson.
Yes, we use consultants to review commercial building plans for compliance with the adopted international building codes, which are, of course, mostly geared towards safety.
Okay. That's not, I just wanted, that's what I thought, but I wanted to make sure. Okay.
Any other questions?
All right.
Thank you, Jim. I'd ask Mr. Lyles to look into this due to the fact that we did receive a lot more CARES Act money than the school district did, and because of this cost. In the past, long time ago, the school district didn't pay any building costs, and so we did change that about 10 years ago so that we would charge them not the same fees, but similar fees to what we charge other commercial developments in town. But in this one particular instance, due to COVID, the costs that they're incurring from the increase from there, I thought that this was a good way to give back to our partners at the school district to help them out and when they needed it, and hopefully in the future, maybe they'll help us out when we need it, right? Any other questions? All right, we'll open a public hearing. If anyone else would like to speak, to this item, you can do so at this time.
Surprise. This is
Oh, state your name.
Jeff Belcher, Nixa, Missouri.
Thank you, Jeff.
Excuse me. Different purpose up here this time. I don't know, typically where I've been educated in is there's usually like a fee associated based on a percentage of a project, but with this being a third party, I guess it's more flat fee type deal.
Yes, the school district already paid the building permit fees in the past, so these were additional costs they'd incurred due for the extra expenses. Yeah.
Gotcha. And this thing sounds like a great idea. I had no idea this was even in the works. My kid's been out of school for a while, but I've got a granddaughter that's probably going to steal the stage one of these days. I may be prejudiced a little bit there, but.
It'll be ready for her.
Huh?
It'll be ready for her then.
Oh, yeah, it'll be done. Just something struck me tonight. I was watching the news before I came in. I'm sitting there thinking to myself, what can I talk about tonight? Making my notes. What can I go through, bring up, And there was a news story that came on about the AMVETS Legion Hall up in Stockton. Apparently they got robbed over the weekend. They said they lost between $10,000 and $12,000. And the thing that stuck with me is they said that's a pretty deplorable thing to do. It's almost as bad as robbing from a church. And I know that in the past, the city of Nixa has made partnerships with, I can mention Ozark off the top of my head when they did the Christian County Strong. I recall there was a mutual meeting of the funds to make that opportunity happen. And maybe I'd just like to ask City Council if there's any way we could maybe do something like that to maybe kind of help Stockton out, because they don't have the bankrolls that we do as far as tax income and all this and that. I think between the cities, Ozark and Nixa, we're looking at waiving $6,000 right here just because we're wanting to help somebody out, whether it's our school district or not. I don't know if that's even a possibility, gifting money to another. I don't know if that's a private agency or if that would be a public entity or how that works, but I just thought it'd be nice to see if there was some way we could come up with a little bit, maybe partner with Ozark if need be to help them guys get back on their feet. They're guys and gals both that done their duty, served their time, and they deserve a place to go relax and hang out and discuss their business that a lot of us don't understand.
Sure.
So I know it's a little different note, but that's kind of something just drawed me to, make sure I brought that up tonight, so.
Sure. Yeah, you could send us some information if you have any contacts or anything up there.
Okay.
We can look into it.
All
I'm not
right.
sure if we can give money to a taxing jurisdiction that's not with us, not overlapping ours, but we can look into it.
Yeah, or maybe do something. I don't know, a fundraiser or,
we could, we can.
a gift, a Secret Santa, somebody in the city, I don't know.
There's probably a Meridian Title office in Stockton, I would say.
See what you did there.
If not,
Yeah, see what I did.
Well, and again, that was all I had. I went over on my minutes a little while ago, and like I said, this was gonna take a minute, so I thought I'd just wait until it got brought up. We're just gonna waive some city fees. I thought, well, that's kind of about half of what they were looking at, so just an idea. And I'll look up some more information on who that would actually be. So I'll try that and bring that next time.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
President. You can email it. You can just email it to us. If you get that in between now and the next meeting, we can look into it.
See, there you go.
All right. You can call the office, and Elizabeth will take that info from you as well. And we'll leave the public hearing open. If anyone else would like to speak to this item, you can do so at this time. And we will close the public hearing. Any further questions or discussion? All right, move on to the next one. 2021-0510.
First reading, Council Bill Number 2021-0510, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the city administrator to execute an addendum with Allied Waste Services, LLC, to modify provisions of the agreement for waste collection, transport, and disposal services.
Mayor, Council, at the April 26th council meeting, Republic Services approached council about the possibility of changing our contract or agreement with them and potentially doing away with the citywide cleanup day, and in exchange, adding, as you see above, the section 6 of the addendum, which would provide for one large item pickup as needed per week, or up to 10 additional bags or boxes of waste. And then also during that conversation, they offered to be able to bring out the roll-off boxes for up to 2 neighborhoods annually. I think that this would be a fantastic way to keep our city clean, and I think that actually our city stands to become even cleaner by doing this instead of a one-day-a-year cleanup. This allows people to clean up their property, garages, what have you, throughout the year. So Mr. Woodman worked with Mr. Snyder on the addendum to the agreement, and that's what's before you today.
Any questions? Thank you very much. And we'll open up the public hearing. If anyone would like to speak to this item, you can. Want to speak, Mr. Snyder?
I just want to thank the mayor and council for taking the opportunity to look at this.
Say your name and
Chris
title and
Snyder.
such.
Yeah. Chris Snyder, Republic Services, 2115 West Bennett, Springfield, Missouri. Just again, I want to thank council for taking time to look at this. You know, it actually, we've already actually received some calls from Facebook posts that have been on here. You know, we've enjoyed our relationship with the city. We'll always continue to keep it clean. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions, Mr. Snyder?
On the rollaways that we're talking about, 2 per, like, a year?
2 neighborhoods per year.
2
I think,
neighborhoods
is the
per year.
concept,
Would
yeah.
that be just placed somewhere, it'd be noticed, and then anybody could bring it, or just the people in that neighborhood could come and fill that up?
So generally, how those work out and how we've done them with other cities in the past is you'll work with a couple groups to educate everyone that's in that neighborhood and kind of focus mainly on those people bringing it there. You're going to have outside people bringing it in. It's not preventable, but the focus is just going to be that neighborhood group.
How long would it be left there?
We would just probably do it over like a weekend or a 2-day event, maybe even just a 1-day event, you know, just to prevent people from abusing it and overloading it and it becoming a trash spot.
Any other questions?
I think this might have been asked last time, but I don't remember the answer. If we do this and if someone has a large item, are they going to need to give you all advance notice or just put it out with their trash?
If they put it out with their trash, we're going to pick it up. We don't leave trash in the city. You know, it's important. I mean, you know, I've lived in Christian County all my life. A lot of our coworkers are here, so it's very important to them personally to make sure the city streets are clean. However, you know, we ask that people try to call in because when you do get those large items, I had to come over and help a driver last Friday right there on Main Street. Somebody had put they'd had a large sofa, hide-a-bed, and a love seat that was very waterlogged and very heavy.
Yeah, I saw it out there.
So if at all possible, we would recommend that people call in.
This is kind of unrelated, but I just wanted to thank Mr. Snyder for your help over the weekend. He was literally running down Main Street with trash cans, and I helped with the cleanup, and I know what you probably dealt with as well. It was.
I've kind of helped with the Sucker Days for years, and so.
We couldn't have done it without you, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. And we will leave open the public hearing. If anyone else would like to speak, you can do so at this time. And we'll close the public hearing. Move on to our second reading section. Second reading 2021-051.
Second reading Council Bill Number 2021-051, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa vacating a certain sanitary sewer easement located at 514 South Nicholas Road and accepting replacement easement rights.
The City of Nixa has a sanitary sewer main that runs through the Nixa High School property in close proximity to where the new Performing Arts Center is presently being constructed. So there's a need to realign a portion of that main to remove it from that area. So we need to also vacate the easement that covers the existing main and then accept the dedication of a new easement for the realigned portion. This ordinance will provide conditional authorization to do that, the conditions being that once the new sanitary sewer main is constructed and inspected by the city's public works staff and the current section is then abandoned, those two things will happen simultaneously, the vacation of the existing easement and the acceptance of the new easement all at the same time so that there's not a gap.
Any questions? Thank you very much. We will open up the public hearing. If anyone would like to speak to this item, you can do so at this time. And we will close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Motion to approve?
So made.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Jared Giddens,
Yes.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Darlene Graham,
Yes.
Amy Hookstrat,
Yes.
Sean Lucas,
Yes.
Justin Orff.
Yes.
And whenever you're ready for
No,
20.
due to conflict of interest, I'll be recusing myself from this one.
Thank you, Mr. Orff. Whenever you're ready, 2021-052.
Second reading Council Bill Number 2021-052, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the city administrator to execute an STP urban program agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission and a consultant services agreement with CJW Transportation Consultants, LLC, regarding proposed environments to North Street.
Mayor and council, for your consideration tonight is an ordinance that would accomplish two things. One would be to allow for the city to enter into a program agreement with the Missouri Department of Transportation. The second portion of the ordinance would allow the city to enter into a contract with CJW Transportation Engineers for design services in order to accomplish a design of the North Street corridor. This was a street that has been a high priority in the community for several years. In the 2021 CIP, the city did budget monies necessary to accomplish the design portion of this project, which was a CIP amount of $546,882. The bid received from CJW Transportation came in under budget at $537,942.48. The program agreement portion of the ordinance would allow for the city to tap into some of our federal highway and transportation funds to fund up to 80% of the project through the allotment from the Ozarks Transportation Organization utilizing the City of Nixa's program STP funds. This was identified on the OTO's TIP program as a funded item, also on the City of Nixa's 2021 CIP. This ordinance will allow us to move forward with those design services with CJW Transportation and allow for a reimbursement of a portion of that design service.
Any questions? Thank you, Travis.
All right, thank you.
Why is Matt like 10 years younger today than he was? It just startled me so much. I was like, who's that? Why is that? Okay. Back to the business at hand. We'll open up a public hearing. If anyone would like to speak to this item, you can at this time. And we will close the public hearing. Any further discussion or questions? Motion to approve.
So made.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Darlene Graham,
Yes.
Amy Hookstrat,
Yes.
Sean Lucas,
Yes.
Jared Giddens.
Yes.
And whenever you're ready for 2021-053.
Second reading Council Bill Number 2021-053, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa amending Chapter 117, Article 7 of the Nixa City Code to modify the city's density and dimensional regulations.
Good evening. As we discussed last time, this particular council bill will repeal the city's current density and dimensional regulations, those regulations pertaining to the minimum size and spatial dimensions for lots, building setbacks, minimum lot widths, things of that nature, distance between buildings, et cetera. Most of the changes that we're making are just to clarify the regulations, to restructure things, to make it, for lack of a better word, more user-friendly for the community. And to remove some conflicting requirements, et cetera, though we are also proposing some substantive changes at the same time. Most of those substantive changes involving the reduction in some of the building required minimum yard or what's more commonly referred to as building setback dimensions in the commercial and industrial zoning districts. Those differences you can see in this table here. A couple of the other substantive changes that we're proposing, the addition of a bulk plane dimension requirement where commercial and industrial zones immediately adjoin residential districts, so that rather than having a maximum building height for each one of those districts individually, as we had before, you will simply have what most cities employ, which is this bulk plane dimension requirement. This makes it to where if you have industrial uses next to each other, you don't have a building height restriction other than what's necessary to keep the building safe from a fire code and building code perspective. Also proposing that we have this right-of-way setback and building setback provision that previously they overlapped in a way that was relatively confusing. Now we've clarified that, so you have the setback from the center line and then your building setback on top of that without the overlap. We also discussed last time the possibility of a potential amendment to the residential building setbacks. We talked about how there was a lack of harmony between what was in our zoning code and what's in our adopted building code. And so we prepared a couple of proposed amendments to address this situation. And so I've kind of summarized those here. One option being just no action at all. Currently, the requirement is 5 feet from the property line to the foundation of the residence that's being constructed. You could just leave that as it is, and what the consequence of that will be that any portion of the building that is constructed closer than 5 feet will now have to be 1 hour fire rated as required by the adopted building code. So that's one option, and we could just leave it that way. There's some drawbacks to that, being that once you impose those requirements for the 1 hour fire rating, there's kind of a domino effect in the building code such that things become more complicated. Staff's concern with that is as you add additional complications, particularly at something that is constructed later in the building process, there's a lot of room for miscommunication and error. So we may convey to somebody who's here to pick up a permit document, you've proposed this building to be 5 feet. That means any projections will have to be 1 hour fire rated. That person's going to have to communicate that to whoever's going to be out in the field as the superintendent, who's going to have to communicate that to subcontractors who may be changing throughout the. What you end up with is, in my opinion, greater potential for a building to be, substantially constructed and then to fail an inspection, which would require deconstruction, right, demolition in order to correct it. That's obviously tremendous cost, and so we can do that. We can do the no action thing, and staff, I think, is capable of doing that. It adds increased risk for those types of errors, which is why I think most communities don't do it. Most communities go with what would be Amendment 1 as illustrated there, where you just have a zoning setback that kind of eliminates that potential altogether, and you don't have to worry about the fire rating of projections. It just moves the buildings completely outside of that zone where you would have to have the fire rating. And so we're proposing 7 feet to the foundation wall, which again is comparable to what all of the area jurisdictions are doing, and it's much simpler to measure to the foundation wall than to the drip edge. I have experience with that in other jurisdictions. I do not recommend that form of measurement. Amendment 2 would be somewhat of a combination of both of those things. What it would do is say if you have an approved preliminary plat prior to the adoption of this ordinance, you could still go up to 5 feet with the 1 hour fire rating being required, and then moving forward, we would have the 7 foot to the foundation wall requirement imposed from that point on. So kind of a mixture of the two. All options, of course, illustrated up there, safe in the opinion of staff. Staff, of course, recommends approval, and Planning and Zoning Commission also unanimously recommended approval.
Any questions?
Did you identify any other pre-plats that would have to make changes?
I don't know that the pre-plats would not have to change. It would be the builder that would have to make a decision about, do I want to go up to 5 feet, knowing that I've got to provide fire resistance for my projections. My guess is that unless the builder has no choice, they'll just back off of it. It's just simpler, more cost-effective to do that. There may be lots that are narrow enough where the builder says, I've got to get a 3-car garage on here, and so I'm going to do the 5 feet, I'm going to add the fire resistance, and that's just what I'm going to do. So the choice will be on the building floor plan, not at the pre-plat stage.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. We will open up the public hearing. If anyone would like to speak to this item, you can do so now. And can you go back, leave the thing with the amendments? Please, thank you. No, that's not it. One more. Okay. There you go. That was on one. Any further discussion? Would anyone like to make a motion to select one of the amendments?
Mayor, we do need to close the public hearing.
Oh, close the public hearing? Any further discussion? Someone like to make a motion to accept one, either, or none of the amendments?
I'll make a motion to accept Amendment 2.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so we will accept Amendment 2. Someone like to make a motion to approve the ordinance as amended?
I'll make-
okay,
No, go ahead.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Is that good enough? We good? Okay. And roll call, please.
Darlene Graham,
Yes.
Amy Hookstrat,
Yes.
Sean Lucas,
Yes.
Justin Orff,
Yes.
Jared Giddens,
Yes.
Aaron Peterson.
Yes.
Give Elizabeth a second to catch up. You ready? Okay, all right, we'll move on to Bill 2021-054.
Second reading Council Bill Number 2021-054, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa rezoning 18 acres of property generally located at the southeast corner of the Main Street and Tracker Road intersection from R1 and GC zoning districts to R1 and R3 zoning districts.
Evening. The illustration on the screen here indicates that all three of the next council bills are kind of related. They're all 3 separate applications, 3 separate bills, but they're all the same applicant. So Council Bill 2021-054 is the tract located at the southeast corner of Tracker and Main. It is the 18 acres. It is already inside the city, so it's not being annexed. It's currently zoned primarily R1 single-family residential with a portion of general commercial in the southwest corner of the site, as you see right there. And the proposal is to take it to what will be a little bit less than 8 acres of R3 multifamily residential, and the remainder being R1 single-family residential as shown in the exhibit here. Staff recommends approval of this proposal, this proposed rezone, and the Planning and Zoning Commission also unanimously voted to recommend approval.
Do I just do all 3 of them and then?
Sure. Yeah,
I'll make
the
them back on each
Council Bill 2021-055 will annex the 10-acre parcel that is located immediately east to the parcel labeled as CB 2021-054. It will annex it and then zone it to the combination of R1 single-family residential and general commercial as shown in the exhibit illustration here. Council Bill 2021-056 will annex approximately 28 acres located at the northeast corner of the intersection of Tracker and Main, and then zone that annexed property as a combination of R1 single-family residential and general commercial as shown there. The proportions being approximately 2 acres of general commercial on both of the annexed pieces, the remainder being R1 single-family residential.
Any questions? Thank you very much. We will open up a public hearing. If anyone would like to speak to this item, you can do so at this time. And we'll close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Motion to approve 054.
So made.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Amy Hookstrat,
Yes.
Sean Lucas,
Yes.
Justin Orff,
Yes.
Jared Giddens,
Yes.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Darlene Graham.
Yes.
And 055.
Second reading Council Bill number 2021-055, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa annexing 10 acres of property generally located at the 100 block of East Tracker Road and zoning said property to R1 and GC zoning districts.
And we had the information on that. We will, any questions specific to that? We'll open up a public hearing. If you'd like to speak to item 055, you can do so at this time. And we'll close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Motion to approve.
So made.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Sean Lucas,
Yes.
Justin Orff,
Yes.
Jared Giddens,
Yes.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Darlene Graham,
Yes.
Amy Hookstrat.
Yes.
Second reading Council Bill number 2021-056, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa annexing 28 acres of property generally located at the northeast corner of the Main Street and Tracker Road intersection and zoning said property to R1 and GC zoning districts.
And we have that information. Any questions? We will open up the public hearing. We will close the public hearing. Any further discussion?
Okay, now I know we're just talking about annexing the property,
Correct.
but I'm still very concerned about that entrance that goes off Main Street onto 56 because there's a little hill there. And it's so close to the intersection already. I know that house that sits on that corner right now always had their driveway that came off Tracker Road.
Correct.
And I just want to put my 2 cents worth. I'd rather see them be able to get in that property from Tracker Road than off Main Street on that particular piece of property because of the location of where it is.
I think we require 2 exits from a subdivision, so we have
One on
to.
the other end. There's a street on that end too.
Yeah.
And I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, these are representations. These aren't
Yeah,
actual
These aren't-
locations.
So there'll be a traffic study
Okay.
that looks at that.
Okay,
So
it's just a
Justin
concern.
will look at that for us.
Okay.
No, you're on it.
Any other questions or discussion? Motion to approve.
So made.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mayor, you did not close the public hearing.
I thought I did.
No, because I talked.
Oh, could you, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
We'll close the public hearing. Any
Okay.
further discussion? So you keep good track. Motion to approve.
So made.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Justin Orff,
Yes.
Jared Giddens,
Yes.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Darlene Graham,
Yes.
Amy Hookstrat,
Yes.
Sean Lucas.
Yes.
And
Resolution number 2021-052, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the city administrator to apply for and accept CARES Act grant funding provided by Christian County.
Chief.
Mayor, Council, on May 18th, I was contacted by Amber Bryant from the Christian County Commission. Well, actually, I believe she's a HR representative, but she was contacting me on behalf of the Christian County Commission And she informed us that there was additional CARES money that was going to be made available, and their intention was to spend it on first responder salaries, much like they did during 2020, the early part of 2020. As a result of that, they asked for the same documentation that we provided in the original application that we did actually get. And we did some basic calculation. I asked Ms. Evans to do some calculation on what that might look like, and we came up with just under 300, or just under $378,000 in potential reimbursement. Now, they did have a caveat that it is not guaranteed, but their intention is to reimburse as much as they can based on the money they have left. Now, they do have a June 11th deadline, so I'm here tonight asking for permission to apply and accept those potential monies. Any questions?
Any questions? No. Thank you very much, Chief. And we'll open the public hearing. If anyone would like to speak to this item. Then we will close the public hearing. Any further discussion?
Can the mayor and I drive the MRAP?
I don't think we're unqualified. We cannot do
Can
that.
you ride on the MRAP? That would be better.
We can do that. I bet we can make that happen, but.
It's worth a try.
I closed the public hearing. People,
You did.
talked about,
Sorry.
messed me up. Sorry. Any further discussion? Motion to approve?
So made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all very much. All right. I guess that's all we got. Anything else from staff?
Yeah, Mayor, Council, just kind of to tack on to the last resolution, we're also asking for, just FYI, we're also asking for reimbursement for some administration costs that we were also notified that we're eligible for. Well, we just don't have to do the resolution for that because it is under $50,000. It's about $21,000. So just FYI at this point, we'll be asking for that as well. And then the other thing I just wanted to mention, and I'm sure that at the next meeting we'll probably invite Mr. Russell to come give us a recap of Sucker Days, but I just wanted to mention that it was a fantastic event. It went off extremely well. It was extremely well planned, and probably the largest Sucker Day that I've ever been a part of. And so kudos to everybody that was involved in that, and it was just fantastic for the entire community.
Anything else?
Yes. Our committee met on the chicken ordinance.
Okay.
And according to what Jared told me, we have to have one more public meeting. Is that right, or are we okay the way we sit?
We need to take it out of the committee.
Yeah.
So, isn't that pretty accurate?
Yeah, we'll have to have another committee meeting to vote it out and report it to the council, and then the council will be able to consider whatever amendments are included in that bill whenever the committee votes it out. But we'll have to do a meeting for that.
Could we maybe schedule that, I don't know what your times are, like for next Tuesday night, because next Monday is Memorial Day, so.
So we got time.
Check your calendars, guys. I want to get this over with.
So that
One
come
way or
back,
the other.
that come back as just at the second reading spot again, because that's where it was before, or does that have to start over again?
That's a good question. If
we're
it
not
may need to
making
come
any
back as a first reading,
We
so
did
we
have
can
the
have
first
public hearing and, yeah, I'm thinking it'll need to be a first reading and then a second reading all over again, but I can confirm that before it comes back to council. Let me do some research on that
We
and
just
provide
made
some
minimal
guidance.
changes, so.
Either way, there'll be another public hearing, so I
So-
think
Yeah.
it'll be fine, but.
Yeah.
Full
Darlene, that
council,
leaves
yes.
another Monday prior to our next council meeting, because the 7th is a Monday that we could
Okay,
get together to vote that
okay.
Okay.
out,
Yeah, 'cause
and then
we
we
got
could
3
have
weeks
the
there.
first reading on the 14th, and then the second reading on the
Okay,
28th.
that works for me. Is that okay work with you, Jared?
Yeah, I
Okay.
believe so. Saying Monday
The 7th of June.
Monday the 7th.
yeah.
Oh, no, that's planning and zoning meeting.
Oh, that's kind of zoning.
Why don't we do Tuesday the 1st, 6 o'clock?
That's what I said.
That's what you said.
Good.
Tuesday
you
the
go.
1st?
Works for me.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Mr. Lyles, do we know, I mean, I've been reading the 150-something odd pages, but I have a feeling this is going to be something that we would have to submit a question. When we have to amend the budget to make up for increased cost because of the pandemic, like, lumber costs and all that stuff has gone up and we have to amend a budget, is that something that we can apply
We actually will look into that. I know that Mrs. Evans has done a very good job on a webinar coming up with a lost revenue calculation that for the city on that money that we'll be able to utilize. As far as additional cost, I think it would, I don't know, I'll find out, but.
I remember there was part of it that said you can't, if it's already been quoted, you can't use that money, but
yeah,
technically yeah, it's been quoted, but it's changing.
Yeah, we had to pay an extra $25,000 on the project today, right?
Right, and then
And that's just gonna
went up to-
continue to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's going to continue, that's for sure.
so, just a thought.
Okay, we'll look into that.
Thank you.
Mayor, I thought I would also mention the pool opens on Sunday, or on Saturday, I'm sorry, for our 19th season. So we're looking forward to that. We still need lifeguards. If you know any good lifeguards, point them our direction. We can still use some.
I have no more children to lifeguard for you.
I know. Jared.
How old do you have to be a lifeguard?
16.
No, not there yet, sorry.
You
But I know
You know a
people.
lot of swimmers.
Yeah, all right.
And you will train them, right?
We will train them
You will do training.
I also believe we're having the Memorial Day event again.
on Saturday morning.
On Saturday morning.
Yes.
Awesome.
Aaron and I have both been contacted by two different people in regards to the intersection in front of McDonald's, right there when you're coming out of Walgreens, McDonald's. And it just seems like it's been a really dangerous situation for accidents and stuff lately. I don't know where we go from there, but what could we look at to improve that or make that scenario better?
Yeah, I'll certainly take those. I've had a couple of those comments before. That intersection's controlled by MoDOT because it's State Highway 14, but we will certainly pass those along. Anytime that you get those complaints or things along the state highway, please send them to myself or staff because we like to send those on because after a while, they do accumulate and start to get some attention. So
Sure.
please let us know about those.
I think the accident, I've had 2 accidents happen while I was sitting at, somewhere in the line waiting for traffic to go across 160 in front of McDonald's, where people have tried to cross and gotten hit.
It is, it's a tough spot.
So,
Oh, people just do
Yeah.
stupid things.
yeah.
I mean, I think, Aaron, did we talk about maybe looking to see what kind of accident reports we've had in that situation in a certain time frame? Is that something Chief could pull for us? And kind of look at that and maybe forward that onto the state?
I think MoDOT tracks that already, I think
Yeah,
somehow.
their TMS.
Somehow, yeah.
So they have, so we do electronic submission, and so they have access to all that, but if there was something in particular that we'd like to point out to them, we could certainly, as Doug said, that we could take an opportunity to show that we're having increased accidents in an area, or if they're becoming more serious or something of that nature. But yes, that's something that's easily pulled, and we can certainly get that to them.
Okay.
I know they do their own analysis as well.
I'm sorry?
They also do their own analysis as well. As far as on an annual basis, they look at, certain areas that are high density for crashers.
If we took that street out, we could sell that as a lot, probably.
Yeah.
City-owned easement, we could just take that whole street and
Yeah,
put something else in there.
Unfortunately, the alternative is going to be either right-ins and right-outs or a median because they're not going to put a signal that close to 14.
No, yeah, definitely.
I wonder how many accidents are people trying to go east out of McDonald's?
I'm sorry?
How many accidents are people trying to
Yeah.
go east out of McDonald's?
I think
across-
most of them are people going west and people trying to turn north into McDonald's.
Yeah.
So somebody
Yeah, that
turns
too.
and then somebody hits them
They're trying to cross.
going across, yeah.
Or eating the french fries too.
Yeah, I think the incident I was talking about, that I was brought to my attention, I think the lady was coming out right there next to Walgreens, between Walgreens and McDonald's, was coming out and was going to turn left.
Yeah.
And
So you're going across 2 lanes of traffic and a turn lane.
And a turn lane.
You should go down to the next accident.
Not much you can do to fix that.
Yeah, I think what happened, it was a vehicle came
right in, right
I guess
out.
you can't do it, yeah.
around behind them, so.
Like at the other side of the intersection, they did with the Taco Bell entrance.
Yep.
Hard median.
Yeah.
No. Anything else?
I just wanted to say another thing about Sucker Day, just extending thanks to Drew and Macy for hanging out all day and for everything that they did, because they were there. We came and went, but they were there the whole day, so just shout out to them.
They were.
I always have to come up to the microphone because I don't have one in the back. But I did want to mention that we made another Safe City list, SafeWise. We're number 13 on that list this year.
Number
So,
13.
That's always a good thing.
Is that for Missouri or?
Yes.
Okay.
So, yep, just another feather in our cap. It reinforces that our guys are out there doing the right things at the right time. Thank you.
Good work.
Awesome, thank you.
That's awesome.
Anything else?
Yeah, I'd love to know more about the Memorial Day ceremony. What goes on at that?
I think it's at 9.
It is put on with the VFW does that, and we just partner with them to do that. And so we'll provide the chairs and sound system and things. They do the ceremony, and I believe they work with the Boy Scouts to do that. And then they have a small reception afterwards. And so in case of rain, they will move indoors. We will have it within the community center. But hopefully, they'll be able to have that outdoors. Just a small ceremony just to kind of recognize everyone in that area. And so it's great. They've done it for years and years. Last year, they did cancel due to COVID. And so they're very excited to get this back and get it going again.
And what time is that?
9 o'clock?
I think it's 9.
I do believe it's 9.
I'll be out of town.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know.
I do believe it's 9. Now you've got me.
Let's confirm
guessing.
that, but I'm pretty sure.
I can do that.
I have an email somewhere from Al. I don't know.
I do too.
Anything else?
Nope.
Oh, somebody- no, all right. Motion to adjourn?
So made.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.